maybe we kind of cement those principles between us, Dave. Around, I don't know. Let's keep our humanness. Let's keep our authenticity. Let's keep the discomfort area. Let's keep ourselves in the mix. Let's use these agents to help us, but let's not send them as our agents exclusively and take away our learning and our humanness, because that's going to get us. When we start dating each other's bots, we know we're in trouble.
Well, what happened?
Hey, Mr. McCauley, here we are again.
Dr. Rubis.
Are you in Vegas or are you in Idaho?
I'm in beautiful Boise, Idaho, and our air quality right now. It's been so smoky over the last couple of weeks. It's just nice to have. We spent the whole weekend outside because it was just so nice and clear. It's not even hot. It's only in the mid 80s, so it's a nice day. It's a good day. I'm in Boise. Yeah.
I'm happy to hear that. We're back in smoke, in orange or in red. Ooh. Here in the Okanagan. Escaped for a week last week. It's so bad. I think our listeners and our readers may know that our daughter and we were evacuated from across the lake. 20,000 people were evacuated. And was on this side of the lake, it was still so bad. So we escaped to Seattle. So it's a 6-hour drive to Seattle. But as we were driving down I-90, so we drove the fires from Spokane and so it was smoky all the way down to Ellensburg, and it was bad. Like all the way down from the Washington fires, let alone the the fire up here. Yeah, there are 100 fires burning. When we got to Seattle, it was beautiful Seattle, just beautiful.
When Seattle's blue sky, there's nothing prettier.
It's that old song, "The blue skies you've ever seen are in Seattle when you see them." And we had a great.
Is everybody safe? Everything good?
Yeah.
The house is safe? Is
the house? They haven't seen it yet. The indication is that from their name, from other people, they haven't been let back in. They've only let about 2 tranches of people go back in out of the 10,000. So the bulk of the people have not been let back. The water is contaminated, but the worst thing is the landfill's on fire.
So the landfill's still on fire.
And still on fire. They have no way of putting it out. And they're literally a kilometer-long fire hoses from the water plant. I mean, there's got to be better ways, I mean, it's like your little garden hose. I mean, I don't. I'm sorry. I know it just doesn't. Feels like you got to dump something on that. That's
like one of those C-130s that flies over. And
I don't know that because I think it's a complicated thing. But it's this story. We'll come back to that. Hey, but I thought I'd lead in, Dave, because as I was sitting there on the balcony in Seattle overlooking the Space Needle.
There I was, looking at the Rubis Estates.
Hey, by the way, Seattle in the Lake Union district where the Amazon was technology. Have you been in that new district?
Yeah.
Holy moly. What a difference. I mean, that's a really cool part of town.
It's beautiful, yeah.
Yeah, it is. It makes the old downtown. But anyway, I was reading about agents, AI agents, going back and on dating apps. So in other words, if you would send your date's agent and they would do each other before you actually dated. So I'm sending out Claude and you're sending out Claude. You're Claude, I guess, and they're going back in compatibility there. Another person who doing a performance, and so they got Claude to build a performance review, but got performance review. I'm sending you out, Claude, to go on my performance, and the boss is saying, okay, go review this guy and go.
Here's the plus side, and I'm going to be sarcastic for a second. One thing that would be good is if I train my Claude agent to be offensive and angry and short-tempered, and we can claim later, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, that was Claude, that wasn't me. I didn't. I don't talk that way.
Yeah. Dude, you could send Claude. I sent Claude out to rate you a 3.
Send Claude to rate you a 1. Okay.
My God.
But it's funny. It gets back to that whole thing. I forget where I heard this first, but it's something that's been said quite a bit, that we've never been more connected and we've never been more alone. That there's never been more ways in which, we can watch each other on Facebook and Instagram and watch YouTube videos of each other and all that kind of stuff, and we think we're close, but we've never been more alone in that it's not really us.
Where I'm going, Dave, because hope we can go into a reveal, but just give a little glimpse behind and talking around how to really upgrade the getting insight into really what's going on, right? At a cultural, at a team level, at a personal level. And there's been some, we've been having these really good conversations around, do we really need to, like, in other words, could you send an agent out? Can the agent go out and review a conversation they're having? And it's quite insightful. But my argument that I put a premise out there to see what you think, that we really got to, as imperfectly preserve the human involvement in having reviews and conversations. Like we can't withdraw. We can supplement. I want to get your reaction to that.
Well, it's so so in one of our sales organizations, in one of the portfolio companies, we record every phone call and we announce it and we do all the legal stuff, and then transcript is provided. But Claude is listening to the call and it's looking at the transcript, and then it's rating the salesperson on their ability to do the hard skills, like, did you talk about this product? Did you talk about these things?
Yeah.
But then it's also starting to learn the softer skills. How did you do with bonding with this person? How did you create rapport? How was that rapport built? How do you do on those things? And it's actually, having watched the videos and then seeing what Claude says, it's actually pretty darn good at that.
Yeah.
Like, it's a job relative to those things. The challenge, it's just my age or the generation I grew up, I don't want to hear from a machine that I'm performing, or if I'm not performing, I want to hear from the human. I want to hear from my boss. It's looking at it from my perspective, I think it's just a chicken shit way to try to distance yourself from delivering bad information. Like, if you're going to get a raise, I'll have that conversation. But if I have to, there are some things in your performance that could be improved, or here are some areas that I've noticed where you could use some improvement, and I'm not comfortable having those conversations, and I just have my agent do it. I'm not growing. You're not growing, and right, wrong, or otherwise, we're apes, right? We're just neurotic monkeys trying to figure out problems, and we require social interaction and human interaction, and so.
Well, yeah, I'm
having kind of an emotional reaction to separating. As long as you're going to have human environment and doing work, then humans should be involved in delivering performance or talking about performance or connecting with that person. Because then it gets back to culture, right? I don't feel connected if I'm. It used to be, I don't feel connected if I'm working from a distance, right? So you have to make efforts to make somebody feel connected. But if the only interacting with my boss or my peers is their agent, and they're talking to my agent, where's me in all this?
Yeah, no, I know, and I feel the same way, Dave. But the end, how do we avoid, and maybe we just put some human conditioning or human. The counter argument I'm getting is the Uber or the Lyft view. Like, you know what? I'm not giving him a 4 because I want that car showing up the next time that I rate him a 5, right?
Yep.
But frankly, his car was a little bit dirty, and the thing when and then frankly, switch lanes without looking 3 times. But I don't put that in there. Like, okay, here's 5 stars, and maybe that's a chicken shit thing on my part, but I'm kind of going, we have this passive view.
It's gamification, right? We're all playing the same game. I want the Uber guy to pick me up, so I want my rating to be high. My rating's high is to make sure I tip and make sure that I score them high. So,
it's the same. It's the same thing with the place we stayed in Seattle. I loved it, actually, and the person that was job. And point of rating that. But there were a lot of things like, we paid, there weren't enough coffee pods. We didn't have, there were a bunch of things missing in the room. It was like, as I expected to be there. And I think that probably the hotel should have known. Should find that. I should give them that information.
Yes.
But I don't know if anyway. Are they gonna? There's a risk. What we talked about. Average just is a place for accountability to hide. So if they see,
Yeah.
well, we got a 4.7 thing or a 4.8 review, that's high enough.
Yeah. Well,
I don't.
it kind of, I'm having the reaction that I had when we tried these 360 anonymous
Yeah.
reviews. And, I can see through my team, but peers and folks above me, I don't want to have an anonymous review because once you read the reviews, you can see who said what. And it becomes a place where folks can air dirty laundry, or if they're not interested or afraid to have a direct conversation, they will throw it in that 360 review because it's going to be anonymous, but you can tell who said what. So I took my 360 reviews of all my peers and I went to them one-on-one so they would know, here, this is from me. And I think I've told you several times, I just don't like the whole absolving yourself of having a human interaction, positive or negative. That's our job in a leadership capacity and a management capacity, to have those human conversations. And if you don't have the courage to have those direct conversations, how are you doing in your personal life to have those conversations? Or how are you doing in your friendship kinds of conversations? It's just, I don't know, it just seems like an easy way to avoid difficult chats.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I think, ironically, it gets in the way of trust and confidence.
Yes, it undermines trust.
Anthropic, I read today, we're going to watermark any Claude kind of stuff. That's good.
Yeah.
I think it's good. I mean, be explicit. I mean,
Yeah.
if using, we're all using it.
Yes.
And it's helping us. But come clean where you're using it and how you're using it. Don't hide behind it.
Yeah.
Bring yourself into the mix. Bring your human self into the mix. We're not about trying to drive perfection here. I'd rather get a clumsy review that's honest than something that's been pre-scripted and blah blah blah. On the other hand, if some of these agents can pick up some of my behavior that I wouldn't notice,
Yes.
and then I'll take that too, right?
Think of it like augmentation instead of replacement, right? So how does it make me better? Not how does it replace the need to do this?
Yeah, yeah. So as we're learning and sorting through how to deal with this, is so much of this is around trust and confidence that we're trying to build. We want to keep and preserve that in the system.
Yeah.
And I guess we're going, Dave, is that I let's say we do a leadership review and when building, I'd rather take leadership assessment of the human beings in its imperfection, manage that against some other data site, as opposed to just going, let's just rely on other kind of way. I don't want to take the human out of it, I guess is what I'm saying.
I agree, but it's also like exciting, right? It's kind of, we're all going to have to learn how to deal with this, as long as the principle remains that humans talk to humans, right?
Yeah.
We do engage at that level. Because I was listening to something the other day, and they were talking about when the phone first came out, and everybody was saying, well, that's the death of conversation. Nobody's going to have a conversation at the butcher shop, or no one's going to have, and we didn't have the norms around. If you answer the phone, you say hello. When you answered the phone just a little bit ago, and you said, this is Lorne Rubis, and norms didn't exist. And so it became over time. And when you talk on the phone, you tend to enunciate more clearly. You tend to overemphasize your emotions on things, because they can't see me, so they can't see that I'm animated. So I have to express that through my voice. But it changed how we are able to communicate. But initially, there was a lot of concern about, it's the death of conversation, it's the death of interaction, and that's kind of why I'm like, as long as you have your principles core, then yes, it can be a very beneficial technology, and we'll figure out how to make that go forward. But absolving you of having the human interaction and human interface, I think that's the wrong step. But learning to embrace the technology and use it is an important step.
Well, what do you think about this? So, was trip, right? So,
sorry.
and so I was experimenting, and so for ChatGPT, do you want to integrate it with your email? I said, yeah, could you send Garrett an email and just wish him a safe and enjoyable trip home? Like I wouldn't normally do that. I mean, I'd
Yeah.
say to him, hey, I'd give him a big hug and say, hey, bud, have a trip home,
Yeah.
and it did that.
Yeah.
And I just crowd and I said to him, did you see an email from me? And he goes, yeah, I got this, and thanks for sending that to me. I mean, do you think that's all right, or do you think it's like dumb, or do you think it's like that where you're starting to cross over the line
Well,
around?
I don't know about that specific. I think it's just experiment,
Yeah,
right?
that's what I was
I
experimenting.
think it's worth it to try those things out and go, oh my God. Like we have a guy who's one of our technology leads in one of the companies, and he has Claude responding to his emails, go through the emails, and some of them are categorized as he needs to respond, but some of them he just has Claude build the response using his words, using his how he typically responds to those things, because some of his responses are just rote, right? They're just the same
Right.
bloody thing. It just does a really good job, and so I think we'll find a way, as long as it's not taking you out of the pathway of doing things that might be a little comfortable or doing things that might be a little challenging, because ultimately, having those difficult conversations has benefited me, even though I was the one delivering them. It's helped me have the courage to have those conversations.
Yeah, it's
Develop
interesting.
and help me grow.
Yeah, it's so interesting you said that because I saw Marshall Goldsmith. For those listeners and readers that don't know Marshall, he's like been around as a consultant for years and years. And he had this AI illustration, but it said, you know, leaders were comfortable getting feedback, information, uncomfortable, and then it was like, you know, I'm happy to have it up to here, but I was just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. So, and I think it's at the discomfort that we need to have our humanness,
Yeah.
right? Don't you think that's where we need to be? We can't take all the discomfort out, and we could maybe get help with diplomacy or presenting or that kind of
Yeah.
stuff, but not discomfort.
My wife will use it because she's been of being a two by four, right? So she's a blunt force in some of her responses. And so she uses chat. She'll put it into chat and say, I need this to sound professional. I need this to sound softer. I need this. And here's the
Yeah,
personality of the person I'm responding to. So can you change some of these things? And she still ends up modifying it a little bit, but
yeah,
it's helped her start to think through her
yeah.
own softening some of her the way she approaches things. And sometimes she'll get a response and she'll go, they'll know it's not me because this is way too squishy. Which is great because you kind of find that push and pull of where are you and where does this work. But it's kind of fun to kind of explore and test things out and try things out. But we're still way in the early phases to see where this ends with how we interact with each other, how we communicate, how we do coaching, how we manage and lead people.
Yeah.
I think it's just early okay to experiment with things as long as you're not doing it from a place of fear and from a place of
Yeah.
curiosity. I think
Yeah.
that's the place to kind of draw the line.
And maybe we kind of cement those principles between us, Dave. Around I don't know. Let's keep our units. Let's keep our authenticity. Let's keep the discomfort area. Let's keep ourselves in the mix. Let's use these agents to help us, but let's not send them as our agents exclusively and take away our learning and our humanness because that's going to get us. Maybe we kind of cement those principles between us, Dave. Around I don't know. Let's keep our units. Let's keep our authenticity. Let's keep the discomfort area. Let's keep ourselves in the mix. Let's use these agents to help us, but let's not send them as our agents exclusively and take away our learning and our humanness because that's going to get us. When we start dating each other's bots, we know we're in trouble.
Well, what happens if your bots like each other, but you and the person don't get along? So your bots are going to go, you know
They go
what?
together.
Screw these meat bags. We're going to go meet in a cloud-based coffee shop and just kind of
Yeah,
hang out,
exactly.
That's my ex,
I
but
could see that happening.
our bot dating, but she's my ex. Maybe that's the new horizon where
Well, they're escaping. They're escaping. The last thing was that I can't remember if it was Chats or Anthropics that escaped,
oh
and they
yeah,
had their own communication. They found
Yes.
out that they had their own line. They were communicating in secret encrypted code between them.
And they had built up so much stuff, it took down their whole system because of all the data and the stuff they had built
Yeah,
on their board. They had taken down
yeah.
their systems. So,
If it wasn't so friggin' scary, it'd be funny. But
well, it's both.
yeah,
Sometimes the
yeah.
scariest things are, hey, what the heck? Might as well laugh at it because
Hey, can I?
we'll be working for the bots soon anyway, Lauren. It's fine.
Yeah, I
It's
know,
fine.
Dave. Hey, I want related, but a little bit different. I wanted to get your opinion. I want to find this kind of interesting. Well, so this next week is about I support a client with a large system change.
Uh-huh.
I really encourage them to use organization influencers.
Okay. Yes.
So and the reason being is that I
So
find
when you
that
say organization influencers, the individuals that are in business that are inside an organization that are, they may not be managerial high or somewhere on the hierarchy, but they have such a significant impact on being, people look to them for
exactly.
what should we do about this? Okay.
So my experiment with it was when this massive change from in 2017 from at that time Microsoft was so far behind we switched the entire 5,000 person company to G Suite. That was a large system change, and we did it in 6 months. And I used what I call invited as G evangelists in driving this whole system through, and they were a representative group from an entire organization.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was such a powerful, I won't get into all the details, but the follow-up data from the data scientists and everything else is people flourished. The project was highly, from Google's point of view, that it was the best implementation they'd ever experienced worldwide. So it was really, I mean, they
Was
don't.
that
They
their
don't.
AI that told you that it was the best ever? No,
Yeah,
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I knew I was going to get a smart ass response there. Anyway, that's bragging. Okay, I know I'm bragging. Okay,
Oh,
but
that's awesome.
yeah, it was. But anyway, here's what I learned was that anytime I go into any large system change now, I really encourage this kind of model to be used.
Yes.
But I'm not talking people coming off just the high potential succession list. I'm talking about, literally people that are deeply passionate to put their hands up and that they have to almost apply to be positive influencers. And then in my blog, I lay out the criteria based on
Oh,
some
that's
additional
good. That's good.
research, Harvard article that I just in October, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, Dave, as a senior leader in an organization, when you hear that proposal, do you get uncomfortable that that's creating another governance structure? Do you think, what are you doing? Like, shouldn't our
So,
leadership be doing this? Like,
so, so
what are
my
you
first
doing?
my first reaction is these people are influencers because they already have garnered a significant amount of trust in the organization. They already are influencing your organization. So there's sort of the formal documented org structure, and then
Right,
there's kind of like the way things should work, and then there's the way things really work.
right,
And I liken it to working at a company where we had to get things shipped out by a certain time for them to make the flights and all that stuff. And I knew I could get my stuff out before anybody else if I made sure the ops guy who handled the evening shipments had a case of beer. So periodically, I just show up with a case of beer and a donut. And so here's how things should work, how things really work. And sometimes you're not just greasing the wheels. That leadership structure already exists. You might as well embrace it. And if you don't, and if you're aware of it, you need to figure out how it's operating. Because if you're up here and you think I tell my direct reports, they tell their direct reports, they tell their direct reports, and then things happen, then because you don't have any idea how the organization really works. I have seen things come from on high, and then it becomes not just watered down, but there's a layer that you reach where everybody at that layer, the people below them look at them and go, okay, this is going to be bullshit because they're going to change their minds in 6 weeks. And so I'm not going to do it until it really is something that's going to impact my pay or impact my work. But if Mary over here is one of the key influencers and Mary's like, no, I love this. I'm a part of this and I'm lead it and I'm making sure your voice is heard as we're making decisions down this pathway. Okay, I'm more likely to be engaged because I've worked with Mary for 20 years. I know I trust her. She's not going to throw me under a bus. She's understood where our blockers are and where our issues are. And so that sort of situational leadership in those places where they have significant understanding of what's going to happen when this change happens, you need that voice. And if you're not getting it, project's going to fail. And if you're not actively nurturing it and engaged in it and understand that that exists, you're missing an entire way to impact your organization, even if you're not going through a significant change. We're doing a massive AI shift in many of our portfolio companies, and the one that I'm running, we have sort of the top down, we're going to pay for this, we're going to provide the funding, we're going to find these projects, and then there are these little, and we have some major projects that are showing some progress and those kind of things, and then there's these little moments where I grabbed some of the folks that have been with us a long time, and one guy who's only been here for 6 months, but he's so passionate about using Claude in his job. And he presented the whole team on Friday, his project and how he's working, and we were all celebrating him. And so it's finding those key influencers as well as those individuals who have a significant amount of passion, direction towards where you want them to go. And that's the only way I've seen significant organizational change actually happen, is we have the push and the pull, where you've got the folks down below who are pulling this and giving credibility and conveying their trust that they've earned, and letting you leverage their trust. Now you have to honor that trust that they've earned, but I've seen it only work when you have two things working together.
Yeah, I agree.
It fail when both those things happen.
And I think, and I really caution leaders that, formal leaders that just want to people they hand select. I'll get so-and-so, I trust her, I trust him, and in person everybody's going, oh, all these people are just, surrogates for the, for what they're trying to, as well-intended as it may be. So you've really got to have a level of purity and courage to allow those people to truly tell you like it is from a perspective that you can't see, regardless how open and well-meaning you may be.
I call them my check engine lights.
Yeah.
Because they are the leading indicators that there's something that we have missed. Now, check engine light doesn't tell anything. It just says there's a problem and you might want to have this looked at. And so these folks had this. I'm thinking of this guy because I sent him a T-shirt that said check engine light, because he was my check engine light. And when I said I was going to have him be our, organizational influencer for a significant change we're making in the way in which we process things and the way in which our technology was working, and he became my key influencer. And I was warned by the executive team that had been there for a while, oh, he's difficult to work with. Yeah. Oh, he's always a naysayer. Oh, he's always the one who says, no, we can't do this. And I found him not that way, but I found him being able to point out what we have missed from an executive level. And so he was my guy. He was my check engine light. He was the guy who go, DMAC, we're doing this thing, and I think we forgot about these two accounts that are going to have these problems. And here's how I think we can fix it. That's all he was saying. But those are good leading indicators of this might be a person of influence, because they are saying the things that other folks are afraid to say, but they have the trust and people depend on them to say those things. But they're pebble in the shoe of those execs who just want to say, this is what we're doing. I don't want to hear a discussion. There's no argument. If you're being a dictator, and I added the tater part on, but if you're being a dictator and you're just trying to do it by edict, you're going to screw things up, and you're going to have those obstacles rather than those folks coming with you. Sorry, I'm going off on this because I can't stand that stuff.
Yeah, I'm really glad you are, because sometimes even well-intended leaders will say things like, here's why we're going to do this. And Dave, do you really understand why we have, I'm down in the lunchroom talking to you. What are you going to say to me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm behind it 100%.
Yeah. Thanks, boss.
Thanks so much.
And I go back going, I'm such an, authentic, integrated leader.
I'm such a good communicator.
And then it's like,
it's like getting a Christmas present from that aunt that doesn't even know you. And you're kind of like, oh, thanks, Aunt Judith. That's really great. That's awesome. and it's nothing, it's like, we used to call them Christmas presents from our IT shop. They shouldn't say, here's the new technology that we're using, and you're going to go live next week. We'll do trainings. Do we need this? Why is this even here? I don't, and it's certainly not a Christmas present, but
no kidding. Anyway, I'm a little suspicious that anybody would bring donuts and beer at the same time to anybody. That's a little bit of a carb overload, though.
You got to know the currency. You got to know the currency that they're transacting in. You got to know.
Can we do a little bit of pizza review? And I did a little bit of a little bit of homework on this because remember, Dave, we talked about.
I think when we do these pizza reviews, we should have pizza.
I think we
That
should.
we should have pizza ordered and DoorDash.
DoorDash. Oh God! Speaking of DoorDash, the hotel that we stayed in Seattle is nothing but a bunch of tech workers and all those places around
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Actually, these guys are going like 24/7. It's like unbelievable. Like you just see that, you go, that's a DoorDash, that's a DoorDash, that's an Uber Eats, and it's like burritos and anyway. Okay, so these are companies that have already taken the lead on proactive. So I'm going to give them a pretty positive pizza review. You know, pretty good crust, pretty sauce, good filling, that kind of stuff. Like made beef, and I'd have to dig in more completely, but Home Depot has provided about 200,000 grants and 300 million for emergencies, including natural, plus a matching mechanism. Interesting. So they have like an internal GoFundMe kind of thing for peer-to-peer stuff. I think is kind of interesting. I don't know. Is that a cop-out or interesting? I don't know, but
So here's the thing: whether if it's working, that's great, and at least they're trying something.
yeah, I agree.
I mean, maybe that's the low grade crust, right? They're doing something. It's a
Yeah.
pretty good pizza, pretty good sauce, good cheese. Be better, or could it be different? But at least they're trying something. You know?
Yeah. Airbnb in 2025 responded to 78 disasters globally and gave 126,000 nights of emergency housing.
Wow.
Jasper wildfires, which is close to home here in the Los Angeles fires, the hurricanes Helen and Milton, and the hosts are paid directly by Airbnb rather than by like across 3,000 people got displaced.
That's crazy. So it's higher for me because that's where they could have just kept their model the same way as it is, and people still would have stayed there because in emergency housing, they could have easily used an opportunity to make more money.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. I mean, and even in some cases gouge people like
Yeah,
and which people do, as you know, sadly saying, right?
unfortunately, yes.
You know,
Their prices go up, like the food prices and other prices that went up during COVID, but haven't come back down.
yeah, it's funny how
So
that works.
so the gouging and the ability to, man, we can improve our net versus how much brand benefit could you get from actually saying, no, we're going to take care of you and we're going to make sure that nobody goes without food but Airbnb. So that's why I think Airbnb scores better because they're cutting into what would have been a significant profit center with demand that has nowhere else to go.
And exactly, and you got to believe there are a lot of people and probably added in certain parts of the organization would be arguing for that, saying, "Hey,
You
our
bet your
margins
butt.
can go up."
I'm looking at the spreadsheet going,
Yeah,
whoa,
exactly.
this is going to hit our bottom line.
Yeah, exactly.
Minimally, we should charge what we've been charging. Come on,
Yeah,
what's going on?
exactly.
And so I think that scores higher from my perspective because then you're
Yeah.
willing to sacrifice your profitability for some brand out of it. You're getting some brand out of it and some goodwill, but you know your shareholders would probably like the profit more.
So we got to be thinking about other alternatives, Dave. Like,
Mhm.
I think we just need to keep push conversations, and we've got some exciting new topics emerging. So,
Yeah.
but love hanging out with you, and I'm glad that Camille's not walking away from being a blunt force. Neither is Kathleen. I can guarantee.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Love you,
Peace be
Lord.
with you, Dave. Take care. You too,
Good.
bud.